was very detailed.
But sometimes that may be beneficial. You kind of read through the jargon, if you will.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Low story.
Yeah, I know you're just going to be briefing them a little bit on the incident. Not going too much into that.
Yeah, that's fine. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. So first and foremost, you ready? Let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
All good? Perfect. So first and foremost, I want to commend the work of the Detective Division under the command of Major David LaPayton, Lieutenant Dennis O'Brien, and Sergeant Andres Perez and his whole squad that investigated this case. It's a very, very delicate case. And so I want to inform you about today. And so today the Providence Police Detective Division has charged Nelson Pires, 27-year-old male, with 2 counts of child endangerment and driving on a suspended license. This was following a thorough investigation into the tragic death of a 7-year-old child in our city. Our primary responsibility is to ensure the safety of everyone in our city, especially vulnerable children who cannot protect themselves. The charges reflect our commitment to upholding the law and holding individuals accountable when their actions put others at risk. We take these matters very seriously, and we will continue to work with the Attorney General's office to ensure justice is served. In this case, the actions of Nelson Pires demonstrated a total disregard for the safety and well-being of his children. The nature of his actions went beyond poor judgment. They placed and resulted in a loss of an innocent child's life and placed other vulnerable young lives at significant risk. No child should be exposed to such dangerous circumstances, and it is our duty to intervene when such a terrible loss of life and welfare of a children arises. We're committed to ensuring that justice is served and that those responsible are held accountable. We will continue to work closely with the Attorney General's office in this case through the legal process. And so I know that there's a significant public interest in this case, but I want to be fair for the legal process and respect the legal process and respect the integrity of the investigation. So I won't be able to provide too much on the evidence and details of the case, but I do want to open it up for questions.
Can you talk about what actions you mentioned that demonstrated disregard for his children?
So I'll tell you that the investigation was thorough. It's delicate, like I stated earlier. The detectives conducted a very thorough investigation. It was reviewed by the Attorney General's office. And so that's when the decision was made to bring these charges that I just mentioned against Mr. Pires. And so as the case continues to unfold, you will all have access to that information as far as what those actions were and what the evidence is. I just can't get into it because I want to respect the integrity of the investigation.
Do you have details on why his license was suspended?
I'm not sure, but I know that his license was suspended, and that's the reason that we also charged him with that extra charge on top of the other 2 charges, the endangerment of the children.
Chief, from what I understand, this individual had somewhat of an extensive previous record. I don't know if you're able to comment on that, but I'm just kind of curious as to why he was out and why he was able to be in a position to put his children at risk like this.
That is correct. We looked at his record. It was pretty lengthy, as you stated, and I know that Lindsay can provide you with the details of that record. And so, yeah, it's a delicate case. Let me tell you, it was not an easy decision, but I'll reiterate that it's important for us to make sure that the safety of every individual is in the city. That's our responsibility, and obviously this was a tragic loss. It's a tragic loss for the family. It's a tragic loss. This poor child never had a chance or an opportunity, and so it's our responsibility to make sure that everybody gets held accountable. And so, based on the evidence, the details that the detectives investigated, and it was very thorough. And again, the Attorney General's office was on the table. We reviewed it. We made sure that we covered everything that needed to be covered, and a decision was made to make sure that we brought charges against them. So.
I know in the past you mentioned that the little girl was not a target, so we can just kind of assume that the father was the target. Can you talk a bit about how the father and the 2 other suspects kind of crossed paths?
Yes, we'll start with. I mean, why don't we go back? Because we all know what happened, and it was all in the news. But that day, there was an interaction between these 2 people, including the father, and it ended up on Florence, and that's where the firearm came out. And unfortunately, the incident occurred. And so, there was definitely an argument between them, and that's all part of the investigation. So that's all we have at this point.
Were there any other details that came out about the suspect vehicle, and if there were any other people in that car? Can we expect any more charges on that front?
No, so that's all. The investigation was done. It's just that this is just another part of it that we needed to obviously further investigate and provide the charges as we did. And so I know that I know it's a significant interest, public interest. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that I have this press conference with all of you to at least provide you with the fact that he was charged and the fact that it was reviewed by the Attorney General's office, and it was a collaboration between the two, the department and the Attorney General's office, to make sure that we came up with this decision to charge. So.
Jefe Pérez, ¿puede repetir nuevamente sobre este individuo que fue arrestado, los cargos que enfrenta, un poco de por qué se dio el arresto de él hasta ahora?
Sí, verdaderamente. So the question was, if I can reiterate what I just stated in English as far as the case itself. So I want to go right back into Spanish, and so I'll tell you that hoy, este día, pusimos cargos contra el señor Nelson Pires por las circunstancias del incidente en la que perdió la vida una niña de 7 años. Esta decisión fue tomada en colaboración con el Departamento de la Policía de Providence y también con la Procuraduría de la Oficina del Attorney General, y fue una decisión después de la investigación que tuvieron los detectives, y obviamente que una decisión bien thorough. Cogimos toda la evidencia. Lo único que no puedo es dar detalles de la evidencia y las acciones que ese señor tomó ese día, pero fue una cosa que la chequearon bien las investigaciones, y la decisión fue tomada en colaboración con la Procuraduría y el Departamento de Policía. Es desafortunadamente que las acciones que él tomó en ese día causó la muerte de una niña de 7 años.
Háblenos de eso. Hubo una interacción, decía, y se sabe que terminó en la calle Florence.
Sí, hubo una interacción entre ellos. Empezó en un negocio y hubo una discusión entre ellos. Se siguieron y terminó en la área de la Florence, en la cual una arma fue producida, disparos, y obviamente, como tú sabes, como el de las otras noticias saben, desafortunadamente falleció la niña en ese tiroteo.
¿Y del historial criminal de esa persona?
Tiene una historia criminal muy larga. Es algo que también va a ser parte del caso, y después de que el caso continúe, toda esa información, yo sé que ustedes van a tener acceso a eso.
¿Qué opinas sobre ese arresto que sucede ya? El arresto de las dos personas fue el día siguiente. Este arresto viene una semana después. Es el papá de la niña. ¿Qué hace sobre este caso? ¿Qué le hace a usted opinar sobre algo tan trágico en una familia?
It's a great question, and the question is, what is my opinion in regards to obviously the day that the incident happened. We arrested 2 individuals, and I commend the work of the detective division. Within 24 hours, no one went to sleep. They immediately went to work, and this is the community response team, the patrol division, the gun task force, the detective division, and we were able to make an apprehension within 24 hours. And so your question is now that here we are later on, and this is the father of the child, and so what's my opinion about that? And so I think that it's important for me as the chief of police to ensure that the safety of this city is for everyone, individuals, and specifically for those vulnerable children, that we have to make sure that they have no control, no protection. This was an innocent life that was lost. And so I think it's important to ensure that we hold everyone accountable for their actions, and that's what occurred today. The father was held accountable for his actions, and so at this point, I want to make sure that he receives a fair legal process, but I also want to respect the integrity of the investigation. So, en español, te quiero decir que verdaderamente es que quiero respetar la integridad de la investigación y del proceso. A mi opinión, yo creo que lo más importante como coronel de la policía es asegurarme de que este señor obviamente sea responsable por las acciones que él tomó. Fue una vida que fue perdida, esas acciones fueron de él. Comiendo al departamento de detectives, que en 24 horas terminaron metiendo a esas 2 personas al principio presas. Allí hubo un trabajo excelente, que nadie durmió, diferentes unidades estuvieron involucradas, pero realmente en mi opinión es que pienso que todo el mundo merece estar seguro en esta ciudad, especialmente esos niños que son tan vulnerables y realmente no tienen ningún tipo de protección. Es una vida que fue perdida, y este señor tiene que responder por las acciones, tienen consecuencias. Y esa es mi opinión, que como el coronel necesito hacer mi trabajo.
¿Ha visto casos como este en las que situaciones padres terminan siendo de esta manera en riesgo, representaron ese riesgo, pusieron en riesgo a sus niños, y que
en mi experiencia,
le tiene a la comunidad?
So yeah, Christine, what's the message for the community as far as incidents like this? I think that we all need to make sure that impulsivity is what creates this type of consequences, and we need to be fully aware. A child's life is priceless and it's precious, and so we need to make sure that our kids are safe. And so the message to the community is to make sure that you keep that in mind. So verdaderamente lo importante es que los padres de familia te entiendan que la vida de una niña o de un niño es preciosa y es algo que hay que siempre proteger, y esa impulsividad y esa rabia tenemos que llegar a controlarlas para que no pasen.
Chief, can you talk about what raised the red flag for investigators to see this father from a victim to a suspect?
So the red flags, I tell you, is I wouldn't call it red flags. I call it thorough police investigation, proactive detective work, and that's what's key here. Again, at the end of the day, the last thing we want to do is charge someone who doesn't deserve to be charged. But we also understand that vulnerable children we need to make sure that we hold people accountable that hurt kids and hurt children, and if you happen to take actions and do things that brings those consequences, then it's our job to intervene and make sure that occurs. So,
All right, are you good, Colonel?
yes.
You good? Thank you.
Actually, Chief, one more.
Yes, yes.